get started without further ado. So a warm welcome from us here at Pearson. Thank you very much for giving up your time on this June afternoon. And I hope you've had a good day and are starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in this summer term. But I'm sure you're still very busy with report writing and exam marking, and obviously wanting to plan for next year. So welcome to this webinar. As was said earlier, yes, we have just disabled the chat function just because there's a lot of information to get through. But the Q&A is open for you. So if questions occur to you as I'm talking, then please do pop them in there and one of my colleagues will get back to you. And we will also have lots of time at the end of the webinar for any questions which are still unanswered or any kind of general topics that are coming up. So today our focus is getting ready, so planning and teaching the new MFL GCSEs for first teaching this September. I just wanted to say that this is the fourth webinar that we are running. So we've already had 2 webinars delivered, one for Edexcel and one for AQA on delivering the new GCSEs by Fiona, who's on the call today. And last week we had Jérôme delivering a webinar to us on mixed ability teaching and how our resources can be used in a parallel fashion. So if you didn't manage to catch those webinars, please do. They are on YouTube for you to look at your leisure. So please have a look at those. So hopefully will be really useful to you. So moving on, I'll just move on there. So who are we? So I've mentioned already the team here, but I just thought I would formally introduce us to you. So on the left there we have Jérôme Garnier, who is leading on our French resources, and on the right Fiona Price, who is leading on Spanish. And my name is Kate Benile, and I'm leading on the German. So all 3 of us bring rich experiences to the team. We have, I think, between us over 6 decades of teaching experience. So very, very much have been sat where you are. And all of us have taught all 3 languages as well to one level or another. So in terms of my own experience, I taught until summer 2022. I've been teaching for almost 25 years, most of which was in a large comprehensive school. And there I had, well, there and at my previous school, I had various roles such as head of year, head of French, head of German, second in faculty and head of faculty. I also worked with the local university leading the training of ITT students in various different disciplines. And at the weekends, I also lectured for the OU. So here at Pearson, as I said, I'm leading on the German, but what I say today will relate to all 3 languages, and you can rest assured that we have approached all languages with the same ethos between them. So whatever I say for one language will be relevant to another. So in terms of our aims for today, as I said, we're looking at getting ready and planning and teaching the new GCSEs. So I'm going to start by giving you a bit of a course overview, just thinking about that bigger picture. So what might you like to start getting your heads around in terms of planning the overall scheme of work? And we'll be looking at that from the point of view of those of you who have a 2-year Key Stage 4, and how you might do things differently if you have a Key Stage 4, which is over 3 years. We're then going to move on to more of a component view, so looking at a module and what makes up a module and all the various parts of the book that can be used in synergy to support your teaching of a whole module. And then finally, we're going to hone in on a unit overview and what planning and teaching a lesson or a series of lessons on that unit might look like. And just for context, because different people will refer to things differently, for us, a unit is a double-page spread. And when I talk about teaching a lesson, I'm not intending for you to fit everything that's on that double page spread with all the resources into one single lesson, but every school will have its own way of dividing up their timetable and different time allocations to that. So I just thought I would concentrate on a unit rather than what might fit into one single lesson. So we'll begin with a curriculum overview then, the bigger picture. And I couldn't do that without showing you the 12 wonderful books there in front of you that we've been working on. So you might be teaching all 3 languages, 1 language, 2 different tiers, just 1 tier, or a mixed ability setting next September. And as I said, if you are in that mixed ability situation, do have a look at Jérôme's webinar, because that'd be really helpful for that. But yes, so there's a lot of work been going on in the background. So what is available and when? So we're obviously very, very aware, and I would be in your shoes, that you desperately want to get your hands onto this material as soon as possible. And we're keen for that to happen too, but we very much didn't want to just produce a book. We wanted to produce a great book for everybody to use, and that takes time. But there is a lot of resources available for you already. So firstly, starting with our schemes of work. So they are available on our website now for both boards, all 3 languages, and both tiers. And whilst they have the word draft over them, they really are a pretty accurate representation of what you will find in the book. So if you want to start that long-term planning and thinking about, some of you might be putting together knowledge organisers or booklets and so on, that would be a really, really good starting point, because they are already there. In terms of the student books, so Edexcel Higher, hopefully you're aware, is available to order now. And AQA Higher is following hot on its tails. It's imminently available now too. And our foundation books will be published in August. But you don't have to wait until then in order to see what's in them. You can start getting an idea of the modules for foundation now by looking at some of our sample content. So the sample content I've listed there is, again, all on the website now. So do have a look at that and get your bearings around what's there. And in terms of our digital resources, you will start to see over the next couple of weeks lots appearing there too. So let me just talk about that for a moment. So you might be aware that we are moving from the platform of Active Learn to our brand new platform, Active Hub. So this is already being used by English and Maths successfully. So it's tried and tested, and we're really excited about the functionality of it. So for any new users, so anybody who is not using Pearson products on Active Learn at the moment, you can sign up on our website to get a 30-day free trial from the 28th of June. So please do have a look at that, and then you can start familiarising yourself with what's there, how it works, and I really do think you'll be quite impressed at what you see. For any existing users, so that means any schools who currently have an Active Learn subscription, you will be automatically migrated over between the 17th and the 18th of June, so really over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And at your next renewal date, so whenever your subscription comes up for renewal next after the 1st of September, you will automatically be renewing on Active Hub. So you'll continue to have access to everything that's on Active Learn until September 2025, but you will be renewing on our new platform, Active Hub. So hopefully that answers some of the questions about what's available, where it is, when it's coming, and so on. So with regard to planning, it's worth saying that actually when we started this process, we did look at the teaching time available and what looked realistic in terms of the number of lessons that you might have over the course of teaching GCSE. Because from our research, but also from our own experience in the classroom, we knew that it was quite a challenge to deliver the current GCSE and the current resources in the time available. So we looked at, how many lessons you might have, and then we took out things like time for exams, time for feedback, where things like sports day, drop-down days, ends of term, they might affect your lessons. So we looked at what was a realistic number of lessons and then started to plan around that. So when you look at our book, it might not look hugely different in terms of the size of it, but actually each module now has nearly always 5 units, some 6, but very few, where they had 6 or 7 quite regularly before. And any extra pages that we've got have really been used to revise, to recycle, to consolidate in different ways, not to introduce new language. So I think you'll find the whole course much more deliverable. So let's look at how you might structure your Key Stage 4 then. So for most schools, they will follow the pattern which is on the left. They will have a 2-year Key Stage 4 and will be starting in Year 10. You'll notice that with all 3 structures that I've put up here, I have put the modules in order, and we would very, very much strongly recommend that you do teach the modules in the order they appear in the book. And the reason for that is that we put a huge amount of thinking into our planning so that the progression was really clear and really sensible for each book. So we would advise that you stick to the order of the modules where possible. So with that 2-year Key Stage 4, we would look at probably teaching the first 2 modules with the grammar revision spread within the first term, in that autumn term. I'll come to what these spreads actually are later, so I'm not going to dwell on those, but there is a grammar sort of summary spread at the end of module 2, and you should have more than enough time in the autumn term to teach those modules really thoroughly, do the assessments with them, and do that grammar revision spread before moving on, as you can see, to doing the next couple of modules in the spring term. And then in the summer, when you might have time affected by other summer events, trips, work experience, and so on, we thought probably you might get through 1 module more comfortably, especially if you've got exams in there and feedback time and so on, plus the grammar revision spreads, which come at the end of module 5. And then you might also be dipping into our speaking practice pages. So I will look at those again in a bit more detail later, but we thought that would actually work quite well over the summer term. You can see that going into Year 11, again, similarly, that autumn term, it's often the longest one, isn't it? It's where you get most of the teaching done. So probably would be achievable to get 2 modules done there. You might, of course, have mock exams just before Christmas or just after, so there might be a bit of flex in there. But then moving into the spring term, that would leave you with just module 8 to do, and then our grammar revision section of modules 1 to 8, plus our revision module. And that would lead nicely into the summer term when focus turns to preparing for speaking, of course. And that would be a really good time to just delve into those speaking practice pages and make sure students have a really good understanding of what they need to do, and there's some practice of various tasks there which will help them along the way. So looking at the 3-year Key Stage 4 options there. So some of you might have a 3-year Key Stage 4 and be starting this September with your new Year 9, so current Year 8s. And obviously you've got the luxury of time there to be able to do different things. And I know that lots of schools in this situation will do some cultural projects and other work to kind of consolidate and revise as they go along. But really we thought there in the autumn term, whilst you can start with module 1, it would also be good, if you haven't done so already, to make the most of our phonics practice resources that are available for Key Stage 3. So if you haven't found those yet, do look on Active Learn for those, because they are great. But given the new emphasis on dictation and reading aloud in this new GCSE, it might be a really good idea to just boost students' confidence in that speaking practice and listening at the start of year 9. You might also do some work building grammatical confidence. So there might be some areas of a shorter Key Stage 3 where you think you haven't perhaps had the time to really get students confident in different tenses and so on. So that might be something that you could do there. But as you can see, the rest of the year, I won't go through it in detail, does follow a similar kind of pattern, but obviously stretched over a longer time period. And then finally, we might have some schools who do a 3-year Key Stage 4, but actually they're going to be starting their year 10s maybe part way through the book, because you might have looked at the content of modules 1, 2 and 3 and perhaps use some other resources to kind of lay the ground, at least over the last term or so. So whilst you might have covered some of the content, I would really encourage you in the autumn term to look at the new resources and to pull out of modules 1 to 3, perhaps those parts that you haven't managed to teach without our resources, but also the exam pages would be really useful to be doing in the autumn term, as well as that grammar revision spread that I mentioned. So I think there's plenty of there that would actually be really good to do before you come to module 4, perhaps later in the autumn term. And then, as I said, as with the other ones, it follows a similar pattern going forward. So those are just suggestions, just thinking about how I might do it if I were if I had my head of faculty hat on. Again, I would be looking at one of those 3 versions for my school. So that was the sort of bigger picture. Now we move to medium-term planning, and we're going to look at a module and go on a bit of a tour through a module to look at what's there, what's available, what can be used at different points, and how it all really knits together. So if you came to the webinar last week, you will have seen this great overview of our resources that Jérôme showed there. And I'm just going to take each one of these parts in turn. So we're going to begin by looking at, on a module level, each part of a module. So the culture spread, the core content, the grammar practice, the exam practice, and lastly, the vocabulary pages. So first of all then, let's have a look at a culture spread. So I think, again, we've mentioned these in our previous webinars, but this came from our research with teachers and students. So it was something that teachers told us that they really love teaching. They love teaching the cultural aspect of language learning, and students told us that that was often something that grasped their attention too. So we wanted to make these the kind of cultural launch points, if you like, the starting points for the module. They're very much about engagement, so really the hook that draws the students in. But you'll see that they have a slightly different feel from a normal unit in our book. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that we've got some authentic looking material. It's based on statistics here, you can see. In Madagascar, which is obviously great. It's a nice, unusual setting, perhaps, and a really much more visual approach to engage students. And you can see that all of that material is on the left-hand side. So that's quite common for our cultural spreads. Sometimes it's at the top of the 2 pages, but quite often it's on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, sort of set apart a little bit, we've got the learning activities based on that. So whilst the emphasis here is on culture, the learning objectives and the learning thread throughout the page are just as robust. So here you can see that we've got a phonics section here, we've got tips on using numbers, quite often there'll be a grammar point too. So they are very much part of the module, but they are, as I say, the hook to draw students in. So then we come to our core spreads, and I'm going to look at one of these in real detail a bit later when we look at that unit planning. But just having a quick look at what's how they are sort of structured here, you can see that they've got the typical sort of introduction of vocabulary and recycling of vocabulary and structures there. On the left-hand side, you've got grammar presented in context. So here we've got the comparative being used and a grammar box backing it up, giving that explanation that the students need. And then on the right-hand side, a bit more development of skills. So there's some texts in greater depth there and some practice of exam style tasks. So I think this is pointing to the translation there, but actually some of the other tasks on the spread would also be found similar. They're similar to those found in an exam too. So that's a core spread. And as I say, normally we have 5 of those, sometimes 6 within a module. And then coming towards the end now, we have grammar spreads at the end of every module. So this is different from our current resources. If you're familiar with our current books, all of the grammar comes at the very end. And if you're looking, for example, at the moment, if you're looking for an activity to practice a certain grammar point, sometimes you might find that the vocabulary isn't quite right. Whereas here, what you will find is that the vocabulary is very much drawn from the module you're on. So all of the students will be able to access that grammar at that point. So on the left-hand side there, you can see that I've taken the grammar box from the core spread that we just looked at. And then you can see on the grammar page here how that's developed. So you've got a bit more detail, a bit more exemplification, some reinforcement there. And then under that, you've got some practice of the grammar points using different skills. So again, that's new for this book here. That the grammar points are now being exploited in different skill exercises. So we've got listening, speaking, reading and writing across that double page. So very much more engaging, I think, than perhaps just doing some reading and writing exercises. But we will come to that. They have their place too. We'll come to that a bit later. And then we have the exam spreads. So those of you that have used our books before, you'll be quite familiar with these. They will look fairly similar. But you can see there we have a double page on reading and listening activities, one on speaking, and one on writing. And these really take students through the strategies and skills that they need in order to approach these tasks in their exams with confidence. So lots of exam tips around them, and the speaking and the writing especially really do model for them what good looks like in terms of these kinds of exam activities. So that was Edexcel. And this is AQA here, an example from Module 6 as well. So you'll see that although similar, they are importantly different. And we've been very, very careful about sticking to the exam board's criteria in terms of what the task types look like, the wording, and any advice that we've given. And finally, in a core module, we will end with our vocabulary spread. Again, these will look fairly similar to what we've had in the past. So they will draw out the key language of the module. But new for this spec is that we have identified any vocabulary which only features on the higher spec in bold, and we have put an asterisk by any vocabulary which is not on the exam board spec, but that we feel is integral to the topic or really useful for students in order that they can personalise their own writing or their own speaking. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what's in a module itself. And we're now going to look at the various different opportunities for revision. So we're going to look at those grammar revision points that I've mentioned, and also our revision module. So you may remember me mentioning these before, and I said that they come at the end of module 2. So at the end of module 2, we have 1 grammar revision spread. And then at the end of module 5, we have 2. And then at the end of module 8, so right at the end of the book, we have 3 of these spreads. So these are revision opportunities. They allow students to practice the grammar points that have come up to that point, but using a range of vocabulary and structures which have come up as far as that point is in the book as well. So for example, we just looked at the comparative, and it might be that the comparative is being used within the core unit to make comparisons between places. But then within these revision grammar spreads, it might be used to compare places, but also maybe to compare people, to compare school subjects, and so on. Okay, so that they will start using that grammar, that structure across a number of different vocabulary areas. So these grammar revision spreads here, they are reading and writing activities only. So they could be done independently, either at home or in school. So perhaps, in a cover lesson or when speaking tests are happening and so on. But we think that they've been a really, really good addition to this book, and hopefully students will really appreciate those. So now we move on to the revision module. Now, this module comes right at the end of the main module, so it comes after module 8, and it is best done at that stage. So there might be the odd activities there that you might think whilst you're doing module 6, let's have a look at the revision section, let's see what we might practice from there. But really they are best done at the end of the book because they might use vocabulary and structures which have come up after the teaching of that module, so that again it is so that the level of challenge is appropriate, and it's allowing them to revise across a number of modules. So having said that, it will obviously focus on the language of that module, but may bring in some other structures. So again, these are a familiar format, hopefully, to the ones that you may have seen before. So they will often begin with 2 or 3 activities which are labelled Refresh Your Memory. And these will give students the opportunity to just do some basic vocab revision from that module, and to just get themselves again up to speed a little bit with the main structures of that module. And then the rest of the double spread will give them lots and lots of practice across a range of skills of the different kinds of activities that could come up in their exams, with lots of strategy tips around them and lots of pointers as to how to approach those exam style tasks. So hopefully that will be really useful at the end of module 8 to come on and refresh their memory as to the key language of earlier modules and how they might be tested on that in the exam. So finally, in terms of the speaking support that I mentioned there, so we'll look at how that fits into a module. So the speaking support pages at the end of the book contain conversation questions, which might be used as the follow-up questions for the read aloud or the picture-based or photo-based task. There's a couple of pages on phonics, a role play skills page, and also a photo card or picture-based task card spread as well. And then we have our verb tables and derivational morphology, which I won't go into today. So that's what these pages look like. I'm just going to pull out a couple of things from here. You can see we're looking at the EdXL ones at the moment, but we will look at the AQA ones in a second. So yeah, the speaking questions, the conversation questions, students can, at the end of Module 6, they can turn to here and they can start preparing their answers or start practicing their answers for that module. But again, a little bit similar to the revision section, it might be that we've put some questions in there that can be answered a little bit later on, a little bit further down their journey, just so that we didn't, for example, in Module 1, stick with very, very basic questions. We wanted to make sure there was some challenge there too. So it might be something that they do at the end of that module, but they come back to a bit later as well. The summary of the SSCs, the sound symbol correspondences there, I have put on the top right. And you'll see that that comes with audio. So that's really good for, again, can be used in class, but students might use it at home if they're worried about their pronunciation, if they want to check something. That's a really good place to refer them to. And lots of exemplification there of the sounds on their own, in single words and in sentences. And at the bottom there, we've got our role play and the picture-based task pages. Again, lots of tips around those, but also some practice tasks as well. And there you'll see the equivalent for AQA. Again, been really careful to make sure that this prepares our AQA students for those tasks, and that our advice there is appropriate for AQA. So we've looked at our bigger picture planning, and then our module view, and now we're coming to our unit overview and lesson planning. And again, just to reiterate, it will depend on your context. I've seen today some discussion in secondary MFL matters, I think, on lesson times, and some people saying they only have an hour, some people saying they have an hour and 40 minutes, some people have double lessons all the time. So I really can't talk to you about an individual lesson, but looking at a unit, I just want to give you an idea of what's available and what you can integrate into your lesson planning. So here we have a Spanish unit, and it's fairly typical. I just thought I would talk through how it's structured, but as I said, those additional resources as well. So at the top there, we've got some really clear objectives, and you'll see there are 3 objectives normally. One will kind of set the scene, so we've got saying what you did at the weekend here, and then one is often grammatical, so using the preterite tense in this example, and quite often one might be more skill-based, so this one is around pronunciation, so the letter C here being practiced. And then we usually begin a unit with a receptive activity to introduce or revisit some simple structures, simple vocabulary. And you'll see here we've got some sentence building grids to support that. So some of you might be thinking that actually one of the things you've got to do for September is that you've got to start writing your sentence builders. But actually, I would hold off from that because a lot of this work is done for you. So you can see here the sentence builder on the left-hand side with the English underneath it, and on the right-hand side without. So hopefully that's really, really going to help those of you who work in schools where you use a lot of sentence builders. So from a receptive activity, which sort of introduces language or revisits it, we then move on to a receptive task in the other skills. So in this case, we've moved from listening to reading. And we would review the understanding at this point. So you can see there's a translation task there just to make sure that students have really understood that language. And then moving on to a productive task. And you can see that this one actually is based on the read aloud sort of task here. So it's asking them to read out some statements, but also asking them to add some time references and so on to that. So you can see that there's a tick box here to back that up, to remind students of key language, or it might be reminding them of exceptions, for example. And also underneath it, there is the phonics box. And this is supported by a dedicated PowerPoint to phonics practice. So again, if you haven't seen the Key Stage 3 resources, really, really worth looking there. Because they're great, and the Key Stage 4 ones will build on that really well too. So as you can see, all of the different C and CH sounds here practiced for students to repeat, but then you can see that there's a phonics dictation task which will concentrate on those sounds. And then last but not least, a trapdoor. Who doesn't love a trapdoor to finish with again, lots and lots of those C sounds in. So moving on then to the second page here, you can see that very typically on our second page, you'll see that there's perhaps a text that's in a bit greater depth, or it might be that we are introducing a bit more language or a different grammar point here. But then you can see the level of challenge does increase. And then again, some more receptive tasks, but then building up to a productive and in this case, a productive exam style task, which is a translation here. At the bottom, we've got a summary of the grammar. So it's always in green boxes here. So summarizing for us here the preterite tense. And this is supported by a grammar worksheet. So again, really, really thorough exploration of the preterite tense with the key information at the beginning, and these are structured with this ready, get, set, go sort of structure here, so that it gives them the information they need, gives them some confidence, and then they have some exercises to experiment a little bit before the final activity there. And I'm just going to show you a German equivalent. So I'm not going to go through all of this in detail because it's very, very similar. But I did just want to pull out a couple of our different resources from this. So you'll see here, this is from our AQA book, and you'll see exercise 8 is a writing task. It's a 90-word writing task about films and TV shows. And that is supported by a writing skills sheet. So again, really breaking down for students, what is this task about? What do they have to do? What's the key language? And a bit of a checklist at the bottom there of, you know, how well have we done? What have we included and so on. So that's a writing skills worksheet. And the last thing I was going to show you on this was some of our independent practice activities. Now, this is actually from a different module, but again, you can just see the sorts of activities that students can be doing on their own. They can be set these as homework to get some greater confidence with their vocabulary, perhaps, and all mobile friendly, which is really going to be helpful. So lots of different activities there. So this brings us to the end of our webinar today. Hopefully it's given you that course overview, that bigger picture that I was talking about, and also just helped break down what is in a module, what goes together to in terms of all the different components that kind of fit together to bring the learning out of a whole module. And finally, that unit overview, which hopefully will give you an idea of the real breadth of resources. It really is quite a rich offering, I think, that is available to you when you are lesson planning. So I think what we really wanted to get across was to reassure you that there's a huge amount that has been done for you, both in terms of the thinking around the planning, but also those resources that you can draw on. And just before I kind of come to questions and so on, I just wanted to take a moment just to remind you that we have got some more sessions coming up, some more webinars over the next few weeks. So do have a look at those. So the link is there. But we also have some training coming from our qualifications team. So getting ready to teach Pearson EdXL GCSE 2024 events. So the QR code there at the top is for those, and the QR code at the bottom for those run by the product team on our resources. So yeah, I'm sure my colleagues have been really busy answering your questions in the Q&A. And I don't know whether, I think Fiona, you were going to perhaps pull out some of the themes from those.
Yeah, I can do. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to do a perfect summary of everything. I know Jerome has been busy answering questions too, but I just had a couple of points that have been asked by several different people. I know there's a lot of you on this presentation as well. So I thought I'd just pick out a few themes, Kate, that are coming through, if that's okay. In the meantime, I think there are still about 8 questions unanswered that I'll let Jerome keep working on, and then he'll see if there's anything else we still need to pick up, because I think it is really important for everyone to have what they need. I think there's a lot of obviously questions that people have around fairly key areas. So the first thing, then they're in a bit of a random order. We've had a couple of questions about if you get discounts if you're a Pearson examiner. I don't know the answer to that question. So I've asked those people just to email me directly, and I'll have to find that out for you, because I don't know is the honest answer to that. I've had a couple of questions around Key Stage 3 phonics. So the Key Stage 3 phonics are available for existing subscribers to Active Learn Key Stage 3. Someone asked about that they've said they've seen them for year 7 and 8 and not 9. So what we've done is the phonics are very comprehensively covered for Key Stage 3 in our year 7 and 8 resource, so our books 1 and 2 for all languages. However, if you're a subscriber, there's also phonics assessments have been added, and they actually are for books 1 to 3 for all languages. They're in 2 different places, so make sure that you've not missed something there, because I can understand how you might not have spotted it, because there's a little thumbnail. When you go into your resources, you'll see the thumbnails for the phonics for Key Stage 3 and the sort of sentence builder type activities. But if you want to see the phonics assessments for Key Stage 3 for books 1 to 3, they're actually in, sorry, I've just got my phone buzzing here, apologies. They're actually under the assessment resources, so you'll need to go into those, and then you'll find those for 7, 8 and 9. There was a question of, can you access those if you're not a Key Stage 3 Active Learn subscriber? So the phonics and sentence builder type activities you can buy as a separate package, but you can't buy the phonics assessments for Key Stage 3. They're not available. You have to be a subscriber for those. And they are brilliant, and they do completely work with what we've done with our Key Stage 4 phonics. It's very seamless, and they do cover pretty much everything that's in GCSE, but obviously we made decisions on what was appropriate for Key Stage 3, and the tasks are suitable for Key Stage 3 rather than being exact replicas of the Key Stage 4 tasks. So I think that's probably enough on that for now. I had quite a couple of questions just around your planning document, Kate, about when you'd be doing things. Now, I think we won't be able to answer this in great detail, because obviously we don't know your individual setting in school, but someone asked about how many lessons a week did you base it on, and asked if it was sort of based on sort of 2 lessons per double page for a 2-year Key Stage 4. I don't know, Kate, if you want to say any more about that, but I think it's quite hard, isn't it, to get into exact specifics.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, as I said, most of our modules are 5 units, but then around that you've got the exam tasks and the grammar spreads, and we're looking at roughly 2 modules, including the assessments, over a term. But I think it does very much depend on your setting, the students you have in front of you, and yeah, your own school, where your own school timetable works as to how long it takes. But and I would say, I mean, we were looking initially at schools typically having about 5 hours over a fortnight when we were planning. That was what we were sort of working with when we were doing our calculations.
5 hours a fortnight, that's really helpful, Kate. And someone said as well that in the planning, it said about summer being put down for speaking, but most will be done in spring. I think it depends if we're talking about when you're conducting those those speaking exams or tests, or whether you're talking about the preparation for them, because I personally used to conduct them kind of, you know, they were right after you came back from Easter effectively. So they were kind of at the start of the summer term. So I think there will be variance then. And obviously you'll have to plan for your setting when you know, because I know the window is quite big and you might be wanting to do them earlier than that. I always find I wanted to do them as late as possible. But that's obviously quite personal to people. So we will take on board what you said and consider that some settings might actually be thinking of conducting them more in the spring term. But obviously that is quite individual. I also had quite a few questions around revision guides, workbooks and vocab, and just questions about how our vocab coverage works. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to address that, because I've seen on social media, on Facebook, there's also a lot of queries coming up around this. So I thought that might be helpful to do that. And then I think that was kind of the main things that were coming through in terms of themes. So yeah, we had a few people, I think Beatrice was one, but we had a couple of queries. Are we going to publish revision guides? So that's not our team, that's the Pearson Revise team, but we have worked with them and consulted with them, and they are publishing fantastic revised guides, just like the quality you would expect, and that has been available before. And they'll obviously be tailored exactly to the AQA and Edit Excel specs, and they will have used the work that we're doing, because we're all kind of different teams that overlap. You know, we couldn't start until the quality team were done, and then we start, and then Revise start, and the digital teams. But we do work closely, and they will complement our resources beautifully, and you'll be able to see the information on that online. So I'd look on our website. I have put the website address for somebody who was asking about registering and how they can start their online trial. So I would say if you've got any questions about how do I start a trial, if you're a new subscriber, if you're new to Pearson, or any of those questions, if you just Google Pearson MFL GCSE 2024, it will come up and you can register, and you'll get information on samples. You'll be able to download the schemes of work. And if you don't have a Pearson sales rep and you need one, because I'm sure you do need, we can't really help with specific support around pricing and packages, but the help is definitely there, and there's a lot of interest, and the sales team will try their very best to get you everything you need. So I would use that as the initial point of contact, and they'll be able to help you, I think. And there will obviously be a lot of demand getting everyone migrated for that summer trial. Oh, there were questions around that actually, so I'll just pick that up. If you're an existing subscriber, you'll be migrated over to Active Hub for your trial period between the 17th and 28th of June, because obviously it'll take a little while to get everybody migrated over. You will have sample resources on there that you can then you can trial over the summer, and then your new sub for Key Stage 4 for Active Hub wouldn't start until the 1st of September 2024. And if you're an existing subscriber, you will be able to retain access to the previous GCSE resources from Active Learn for another year, until the 1st of September 2025. If you're a new subscriber with us, you can also have a 30-day trial in June. So I would get in touch via the website and get that started. And just to reassure anyone who is using Key Stage 3 Active Learn and will be using Key Stage 4 Active Hub, it will be a really easy gateway. It will be an easy link so that you can use both. So don't worry about that. And I would say that I know there's a lot of questions around Active Hub, but we do think that, as Kate said, you've got what you need to plan for now. I know it's really, really hard. It's really hard with a new spec, but the schemes of work are there. There's lots of sample resources, and what you need for September will be on Active Hub. But obviously it's a slow process, as I say, because they have to start their work after us, getting everything in place, but you'll have what you need. It will be there in the audio files. Everything will be there, and you'll be able to have a trial. And it's brilliant, and it's going to be really, really user friendly. The other question was around workbooks. We haven't currently planned to do workbooks because our resources are very comprehensive, as Kate's explained, where we really thought quite carefully about additional grammar practice. It's something, you know, I can take that away as an, you know, it's come up as a comment, but at the moment we haven't planned workbooks, and there are the revised guides. Vocab booklets, there's a few questions around vocab. So if I just try and cover that. In each module, I think as Kate's already explained, there's going to be vocab pages for students. So those are not every bit of vocab that is in the course. It's the main productive language that students would need, because you don't want to overload them with absolutely everything that's in the course. So it's probably about a quarter of the vocabulary that we've covered in the whole course. It's the main productive vocab they need for speaking and writing, and those will be available as Word documents, as you've had in the past if you're an existing user. So you'll be able to download those. I can't give you exact dates of when they'll be available on Active Hub, but you will have those. And I can take that back and we'll follow that one up to try and get more information. But you'll be able to print out booklets, as I'm sure you will do, and I did in the past, so that students have that. They will also be really clearly indicated with the higher-only vocabulary and the off-spec vocab, which is very limited, but students, you'll be able to see that for your students. If you want the more comprehensive picture of all the vocabulary that we have in the courses, I'd suggest looking at the scheme of work, because that will have everything in there. And then Helen asked a question about, can we guarantee for students that everything is covered in our 8 modules? So what we've done is we have covered an enormous amount of the specification list. For those of you who are familiar with it, there's quirky words in there because it's the top 2,000 words. It's 85% the top 2,000 words. So there are some the vocabulary that is very high frequency and common and useful to students. We will be recycling that and throughout the course. And it's embedded in very teachable text, because there's no point in presenting them with a list of 1,200 words or 1,700 words. That's not going to work. So we've thought very carefully about how to make that specification vocabulary work within the course. In terms of 100% coverage, our full surrounding resources will cover 100% of the vocabulary, including independent practice. So independent practice are basically our homework tasks. So there's going to be vocabulary activities on there for students to access, and they can do it on any mobile device. They're going to be really user-friendly. So you can feel confident that if you're accessing the full surrounding resources and those independent practice tasks, that students will have access and practice to 100% of the specification list. And then in terms of our courses, the end of module pages are more of a sort of a briefer amount for students, a manageable amount of productive language. And then the scheme of work has all of the vocabulary that we've included in the course, which has been thought through very carefully, as Kate explained, in terms of progression and supporting the grammar. And just bear in mind as well that grammar can be listed as a vocabulary item as well if you're not familiar with the new specs. So you need to kind of look at the grammar specification alongside the vocabulary list, but we have done all that thinking for you, and it's all in the courses. I think that was probably it. Sorry, very long answers, Kate, but we had quite a few questions around vocabulary, so I thought it was quite a good opportunity to cover that. I don't know if Sharon wants to chip in if there's anything I've missed or there's questions that have come in while I've been talking. I can see the Q&A has gone up a bit.
Yeah, there are a few questions here, aren't there? I'll try and whiz through some, but if there's any that we don't get to today, then please do feel free to email us. But there's one about the grammar worksheet. So where is that? So that's that will be on Active Hub, ready to download. So that's there. Assessment resources, yes, like the current version, those will be available in the same way as before. So end of module assessments, but also there's one planned for an end of year 10 assessment. And it's also possible to put your own assessments together using Assessment Builder. So yes, that's definitely available there. There's a question around face-to-face sessions, and those are the qualifications team ones. So yes, they do exist, but they are the qualification team ones. So do feel free to use the QR code and you'll find the details of those. Sample online activities materials, I think we've answered that one. Is it possible to teach the new GCSE course ab initio in 2 years? So it's been designed to deliver the new GCSE within 2 years. I think most schools will have taught for at least 1 year of Key Stage 3 before students go on to Key Stage 4 in a language. So I think that Key Stage 3 vocabulary is really important. But potentially, depending on how you design your Key Stage 4, that might be possible. There's a question there about standardisation, but that is really more to do with the exam board, I think. So I'll leave that one. I think we've covered vocabulary. And then not seeing
Did you cover, Kate, the one about face-to-face sessions, or the same elements covered in session? Yes, that we thought that was maybe more qual. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the advantage of going to one of the in-person sessions is you might have more opportunity to speak to someone for longer and ask more questions. So I could see that some of those getting ready to teach events could be really good for that. Essentially, we're all delivering very similar content, though.
Yeah, and I think the other questions are around vocab, which I think you've just answered. Thank you, Fiona. And will the order of modules in the Spanish textbooks be the same as in the French? So no, they won't. So each language has taken an approach where the modules are in an order which very much suits the grammatical and language progression for that language. But if you look at the schemes of work, that will be really clear. So you'll see very clearly the order of the modules for the Spanish book.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on that, yeah, Spanish, for example, the current course, we start with holidays. We've actually gone with starting with free time and then holidays because we felt that was just really good progression for getting those key present, past and future tenses in. So, but the modules won't give you any surprises in terms of the content. You know, they're all things that will seem very familiar. There was another question, actually, Kate. I think a couple of people maybe asked this who were private tutors asking about Active Hub. So I don't know if you answered that, Kate, or shall I just
No,
pick
I haven't. No, go for it. Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of Active Hub, it's not designed to be sold to individual tutors, unfortunately, and independent teachers, because the nature of it is it's designed to be sold as a package to different sizes of schools, obviously, but that's how it's really designed. So in terms of if you work as an independent tutor, you can buy the textbook, obviously, and use that with students. The difficulty you will have is around the audio files. I would suggest, I've put my email in the chat there. I'm happy for you to contact me if you want to ask those specific questions. It's fiona.price@pearson.com, because we don't tend to we don't give access to audio files to independent tutors, but it's worth emailing, and we can look at things on a case-by-case basis, but wouldn't be our approach, because they are subscriptions that are designed to be sold to schools with the audio. They're not for individual tutors. Only the textbook would be for that. And in terms of Active Hub, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to access that as an independent tutor, because that's not the nature of our packages, unfortunately. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you. I think there was a similar question. I don't know whether it was answered. Maybe Jérôme, you might have answered it, around the pricing for different sized cohorts. But again, that's something very much to. Did you answer that one, Jérôme? Was that one of the ones?
No, I did not answer this one. Okay. I think I've just asked the person to get in touch with the sales representative.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So do any questions around pricing and so on, please do reach out to them. Very happy to take your call.
I'm just going to put just the website, because I said just Google it, and that wasn't particularly helpful. I'm just going to put an actual address in the chat there, which is just the general link if you've got questions, because I think someone had asked what's the link or website to your Active Hub one can have access. So it's not the link to Active Hub, it's just the link to our web page, where if you register in that, then you'll get access to asking those questions like, can I consult with a sales rep? Can I have samples? You'll be able to download schemes of work, and you'll be able to ask about those trials. So that's sort of the best port of call, is to go through that website, I would say.
Great, thank you. And was there anything else you wanted to pick up on, Jérôme?
I know I've run through most of the Q&A. I think we've answered a lot of the questions, if not all of them.
Great. Thank you.
The other thing, Kate, sorry, Kate, interrupting you. The other thing I didn't say was people who were asking about Key Stage 3 phonics. I am delivering a session on that. I now can't remember the date off the top of my head. I think it's the 23rd of June. It's in the QR code that Kate told you about. So if you look on that list, it's upcoming. It's not the 23rd, it's the 27th. Apologies. So if you wanted to dive in a bit more into phonics, I am going to go through those and how to use your Key Stage 3 phonics PowerPoints effectively, and the assessment PowerPoints. If it's something you're not familiar with yet, that's the session, and I'm going to show how our existing Key Stage 3 resources actually work very well with the new Key Stage 4. I did want to say as well that we are really open, though, to your ideas and your feedback about what you'll be looking for in terms of Key Stage 3. Once you start teaching any Key Stage 4, we would like to start research on that and get a lot of teacher opinions about, you know, your Key Stage 3 and what changes you would like to see in our resources. So that's just something, sort of watch this space. We will be asking for teachers to come forward, or if you've got anything you want to email us about with any points about this, then that's very welcome, and please do come to that session. And I'll also mention it in that session that we do want to find out more from you.
That's great, thank you, Fiona. So I think it's 5 o'clock on the head now. So thanks ever so much for your attention this afternoon. And as Fiona said, please do reach out to any of the three of us if you do have any questions. Our emails are all our first name and our surname @pearson.com. So do get in touch if you've got any questions. But thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.